Hello and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, Episode 7, Thursday, August 16th, 2018.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Hello and welcome back to Book of the Mouse Club. I'm Courtney and joined by my co-host Emily.
Hey there, hi there, ho there, everybody.
Hello. Well, on our last episode, we announced that the Bob Thomas Walt Disney biography will be our next book. But because of the time, we'll need to read that one and to give you guys some time to read along if you want. We have this fun filler episode today talking about Dave Smith's Disney A to Z, but also we have an exciting announcement at the end of this episode to share about an upcoming show. So please stay tuned for that. So Emily, why don't you jump us into Disney A to Z with the inside jacket description?
All right, so Disney A to Z official encyclopedia, we are reading from the 5th edition, 2016. So if you're curious about the Walt Disney Company, this comprehensive encyclopedia is your one-stop guide filled with significant achievements, short biographies, historic dates, comprehensive lists, and tons of trivia. This new undated collection covers all things Disney from A to Z through about 8,000 entries and more than 800 pages. Dave Smith, Chief Archivist Emeritus of the Walt Disney Archives and the ultimate authority on all matters Disney, adds and enhances thousands of years based on 10 years of historic perspective since the encyclopedia's last release. The editions incorporate nearly 200 new film and about 150 new TV programs from ABC, Disney, ESPN, Freeform, Lucasfilm Limited, Marvel, and Pixar Animation Studios. Entries even cover the many expansions at the Walt Disney Parks worldwide, including the grand opening of the Shanghai Disney Resort in 2016. The 5th edition also marks the 20th anniversary of Disney A to Z, the official encyclopedia, making this the perfect time to dive into the ever-changing, exciting world of Disney.
Yay! So yes, there are 5 editions. The first one came out in 1996. Then there was a second edition in 1998. A third in 2006, celebrating the 10th anniversary. Then there wasn't an update till 2015. That's the 4th edition. And then they're like, all right, a year later, 2016, here's the 5th edition. So I thought that was interesting that there's kind of just like a weird gap, like 2 years, then 8 years, then 9 years, then 1 year in between. I mean, so much happens, but you'd think it'd be like, oh, something that they might do like every 5 years, but there doesn't really seem to be a rhyme or reason.
I mean, it can be really difficult to write a comprehensive encyclopedia of everything Disney, especially like the jacket side with Lucasfilm and Marvel and all these properties that now Disney owns. Like, it's a lot to update.
Yeah, I know on the back there's like a picture of Kermit, and I'm sure, the Muppets probably, other than like Muppet Vision 3D, probably weren't even an entry in that very first edition. And there's also, we should mention, on the D23 website, you can look some up as well, and it's supplemented monthly online. So I think they are keeping that up to date regularly online. Yeah. And that probably makes it easier to turn out a new edition if it's something that they can do in pieces online. But the man responsible for most or all of this from the beginning is Dave Smith. So let's talk about, I think, both of our personal hero Disney legend.
Oh, he has my dream job.
There's many Disney legends that I respect, but Dave Smith is definitely up there for me. So he has a great Disney journey and story. We've done a little research, but I want to talk about before he got his job at Disney. You had located that LA Times article, and it has a story. He went to Disneyland in 1956 when he was 15, visiting with his family. He was an avid autograph collector, and he walked up to Walt Disney and asked for his autograph, but not many people know this, or some might. Walt never signed anything in the parks at a certain point. He would keep, you see it in Saving Mr. Banks, he has like a little card with his autograph on it that he would pass out, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to do anything in Disneyland if everybody was stopping him. But because Dave was persistent, Walt said, like, write a letter here and I'll get you one. And Walt made good on that promise, and he did send him an autograph later on. But Walt passed away in the late 1960s, and Dave came to work for Disney in 1970.
Yeah, and like, who knew Dave talking to Disney on Main Street, or in front of the castle, I forget where he was, in Disneyland 15 years, 20 years later, look what he's doing for the company. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, he was a librarian at UCLA, which is where he did his library science degree. And I liked, when I was reading his little biography, he is in the Encyclopedia, of course. He gets his own entry. But he is the child of librarians and educators. And I was like, those are my people. So Dave is good people. Yeah,
and from there, he's done stuff. So he didn't just jump right into creating this big Disney library. So not only after he got his degree, he worked in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., the manuscript department in San Marino for the Huntington Library. He was a reference librarian at UCLA. So he has a lot of background in compiling research. And what got him started on this project was after Walt Disney died, one of his things was creating bibliographies, which is just a reference source of everything that has to do with a given subject. So that would be the back of your book. If you turn to the back of your book and you look at all your sources, or that MLA formatting that you hated your teachers for telling you to do in high school, that's what a bibliography is. So he put one together of all the Walt Disney anything. He wanted to create a comprehensive bibliography because he enjoyed the topic, but he wanted to do that as part of his research at UCLA. And then afterwards, the Disney company bought it from him. They said, oh, wait, this is awesome. We kind of need this. No one in the Walt Disney Company had done that before. And then UCLA was trying to say, hey, we could start this project. But what Disney wanted to do with it, creating a more comprehensive library, UCLA couldn't support it. They didn't have the space, the manpower. So they said, you could do this on your own. And
also, I think part of the concern was trade secrets. They're like, we can't give this information out to like a college that would have it readily available for everyone. This is something that should probably be in-house within the company, where they can be the gatekeepers of the information.
Yeah, so then Dave was like, oh, that sounds really cool. So he wrote up a proposal of like how they could go about doing that, because he has experience in libraries and putting together collections. And then they said, oh, this proposal is really great. How about you just come work for Disney and do it yourself?
Yeah, I think it said he was taking a sabbatical to do that. And it's like a sabbatical from UCLA. And then he just never went back. And he had a wonderful career with the Walt Disney Company. Officially, he worked there for 40 years and retired in 2010. But Dave is still alive and remains a consultant, and he was the director of the Disney Archives and the founder of it, but his current title is Chief Archivist Emeritus. So still very active, answering questions for fans online, making appearances on occasion at different Disney events. I think very active, like on the D23 side of things, which I think really is a portion of the Walt Disney Company that carries on Walt's legacy. And I think that's what's also very unique about the Disney Archives themselves. I read a quote within the D23 article on the archives that said, no other entertainment company looks to its past so much as Disney. And I really think that's true. This is a company that values nostalgia, whether it was Walt creating and emulating Hometown America on Main Street, USA, which was, a nostalgia piece for the audience in the 1950s coming into Disneyland, or to a company that now draws on that nostalgia. Like within the parks, within TV, we got the DuckTales reboot. We're rebooting Kim Possible. Those are just some current examples. But really, you see different posts on the Parks blog that'll harken back to Walt and really try to make the connections between what the company is doing today and the values that have been there since the beginning. So the Walt Disney Archive serves a very important purpose, and we are clearly big archives nerds.
Yeah. So what they do today, what started as a one-man job, I love this quote that he gave in an interview. He said, they gave me an office up in Walt's office suite in the animation building. I had an empty room and a filing cabinet, and they said, start. So this was definitely a big project that he took on, and no one else knew how to do it except maybe him and some other librarians out there that he probably contacted for help with getting some information to get them started. But knowing how much there is now, like one filing cabinet was definitely not going to cut it. And today, now they say there's over 24 people that work there full time. They do booths at D23 Expo. They have a very active Instagram and Twitter account where they're posting stuff all the time. Artifacts, papers, different things. And I think they do a lot of things back and forth with the Walt Disney Museum, the Family Museum in San Francisco.
The Walt Disney Family Museum is not owned or operated by the Walt Disney Company. It is something that was started by Diane Disney Miller, one of Walt's daughters, but they have a great relationship with the Walt Disney Company. And I follow their Instagram as well, and they'll do great Instagram live or story features in partnership with the archives. But the archives was created at a really critical time for the Walt Disney Company. In 1970, Walt had recently passed away, and Roy was set to retire. He had kind of come out of retirement to finish Walt Disney World and continue Walt's legacy, and that, of course, opened in 1971, and Roy passed away shortly thereafter. So he was able to talk to Roy and get firsthand accounts from people who worked with Walt. So it really started as a Walt focus, I think. And then he just, the company grew, the parks grew, and collected all of this information. One of my favorite stories that I came across in the research in that LA Times article was nobody knew how tall Walt Disney was.
I was just thinking about that story.
And he even asked Lillian, Walt's wife, who was still alive, and she didn't know. So like any good research detective, he tracked down Walt's passport and found that information. And it's just simple things. You're like, how do you not know how tall he was? And that was his job to find out everything.
And in an interview he had with Theme Park Insider, they were asking him, did you intend to have all these artifacts and other things? And he said, no, it was supposed to be more company only focus. Like they had training manuals and maps and photographs of different things, but then it very quickly went to, well, we need to collect all this stuff from Walt, and we need to talk to these Imagineers and these 9 old men and all these people who created the company who are now getting older. And slowly, because Disneyland started to evolve, they were like, oh, we should hold on to some attraction posters and ride vehicles and all these other things that now we kind of credit the archives for holding on to movie props and lots of other things like that too.
And thank goodness they did. So in addition to Disney A to Z, he's also the author of a few Ultimate Disney trivia books, Disney the First 100 Years, The Quotable Walt Disney, which is a great reference of things that Walt actually said, as opposed to quotes that are often misattributed to him. So that's a good resource. And I think one of his more recent books was Trivia from the Disney Vault, but I really feel like his best known work is this series of encyclopedia that we're talking about today, which is Disney A to Z. So do you want to talk about just some of our, the layout of it, likes and dislikes? I think we had posted about it and asked some of you to respond with your own entries that you'd like us to look up, which we'll get to later. But I think a few people were like, what does it even look like inside? What is a Disney encyclopedia? So how would you describe it, Emily?
So it's kind of like a dictionary. I think we're used to thinking of encyclopedias as this is going to date us a little bit, but I remember using encyclopedias in school before having ultimate computer access. So you would have volumes, and this was volume A and volume B, and an encyclopedia was a huge collection, but this is contained to one book. So it kind of reads, I think, more like a dictionary, that you have all the letters, but standard, it's in alphabetical order. There's small blurbs. I would say the longest one is maybe a half a page.
Yeah.
Or half a,
some of
they're not very long.
It's interesting within there how some things are long and some things are short. I noticed that, and you'll hear some of the differences as we read the entries. Some character-based ones are just like a line or two, but some about certain important people or like really important films, they go on for like 2 or 3 paragraphs. So it's an interesting choice as to like what gets a long entry, what gets a short entry. But there's some pictures in it, of course, not colorized. But I'd say there's like 1 or 2 pictures per page, just small, like you'd find in a dictionary, or of course, like one of those bigger volume encyclopedias. But yeah, standard layout, A to Z, as it says. There's not many items on U or V, but certainly in the D section, because a lot of things start with the word Disney.
One thing that can be difficult that I think you and I trying to find some of our favorite things is knowing the proper name for some attractions or movies or whatnot, because you might be like, oh, it's under B, but really it's under H or something because of the actual name. What was one of the ones we struggled to find?
One that I'm going to talk about later is the Treehouse Villas, because I think we're each going to have like a little story to share, but I was like, is that under Saratoga Springs Treehouse Villas? But it's just under Treehouse Villas. But then what's interesting is not everything actually has its proper nomenclature. So a lot of the resorts at Walt Disney World are Disney's Coronado Springs, Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I was trying to find some of those based on their requests, but Animal Kingdom Lodge was just under Animal Kingdom Lodge. So it's interesting, like, where it's very strict, but other times it, like, loosens the reins a little. But I guess if everything had Disney in front of it, that D section would be even longer than it has to be.
Yeah. And also, not everything, we will say, makes the cut into this book. So like we said earlier, one, it also depends on time. Whatever you're looking up, is it too new to fit into this edition? So you might find it online on D23 in their monthly update to A to Z. But also some things that we were looking for aren't in here. Like one I really wanted to look up was when Barbie was featured in Epcot for a period of time. So I wanted to know more about Mattel and Barbie's relationship with the Disney company. She even made a whole video for her birthday in Epcot. Nothing of that in here. There were some that you couldn't find either.
Oh, yeah. Someone had requested Disney Quest, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll put it on the list. But I was shocked. Disney Quest was not in there. I did find Disney Regional Entertainment, and it mentions Disney Quest there. That was, like, the division of the company that was responsible for, like, themed entertainment, like ESPN Zones and Club Disney and Disney Quest. But there was no entry just for Disney Quest. And I was like, oh, man, I'm missing out on some cool history there. But then there'll be random things, like I was looking for something in the R section, and Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, that movie with like Lisa Kudrow from the 90s, which I guess was under the Touchstone banner, or like, one of the more adult banners. I was like, what's that doing in here? Or the Jonas Brothers.
I could talk to Dave Smith. I really want to ask him, like, how do you decide what is going in the book and what is not going in the book? Because you can't blame him. There's 8,000 entries in this 5th edition. Like, at some point, you got to say, when do we stop making the book and put it to print?
Absolutely. I think that's something Aaron talked about when we interviewed him on his last show about keeping up with the new things at the parks and writing a guidebook and consistently changing it.
I need to tell our readers, you have 3 editions of this book. So why did you want this encyclopedia on your bookshelf so badly?
We're going to get sentimental here. So when I was in 6th grade, I was in middle school, and it was the early 2000s. And I feel like internet research was like something you had to learn in school, starting you early on that research train. And they had a project called iSearch, where they're like, all right, let the kids pick something they're passionate about, develop a research question. I think the thinking behind it was, they'll be into it if they get to pick their topics. Like, of course, you have like horse girls, and they do a project on horses, but I was a Disney girl, and I always loved Disney. So I was like, I want to learn more about Walt Disney and how was he inspired to create the Disney theme parks. So I did some of my internet research, but my mom, being the excellent teacher and educator that she is, took me to the library and was like, you're going to look up things in books. And I remember they had a copy of, it was probably the 1998 second edition. At that point, they had a copy of Disney A to Z in the library, but it was, of course, the reference section, so you weren't allowed to take it home. So I remember sitting in the library looking up different entries and pulling them for my project. And that's really, I always loved going to, who doesn't enjoy the theme parks, but I think that's really where my love and appreciation for the company and Walt himself was founded, and like my passion grew. So fast forward several years later, I did my Disney college program. I did a professional internship with the company, and I started my first professional career role, which was research-based in a way, and kind of as a little treat yourself moment, I was like, I'm going to buy myself a copy of the 1998 edition of Disney A to Z so that I can have it as at my desk as a started from the bottom, now we here type moment. So that was my first one. And then the 2015 edition came out while I was working there, and my boyfriend got it for me for Christmas. And then a year later, the 2016 edition came out. So of course, I have to stay up to date. So I feel like part of me should get the third edition and the first edition to just complete the collection, but they're a little harder to track down.
Yeah, I only have the most current fifth edition. That was a birthday present to myself after my college program. That I was like, I kind of need this. So I got it. Oh, no, I got it before my college program. I got it after I'd been accepted. So I was kind of doing that whole build up before you move to Disney for 6 months. So I was reading and watching everything possible to learn about the company. And I remember you sharing a picture of, I think, your desk library, which had one of your editions on it, and I was like, oh, I should get that one. So that's how I got my book. And it's been fun to flip through every now and then. I'm just like, oh, let me open a random page and learn something new, or I see something on a commercial or hear about something else in other podcasts that I listen to, and I'm like, what is that? And I have to look it up.
Yeah. How well do you think this reference book provides info on the Disney company? I know we talked about some things are missing, are there any rose-colored glasses or
so something I read in some of the articles, not from D23 but the LA Times one, some interviews, and some other things I found online, was that it's very factual. It's not very sentimental, but at the same time some things kind of get left out. I wouldn't say nothing's skewed, but not everything is completely truthful. Some I think executives or whoever who have
Jeffrey Katzenberg, people who left the company, maybe not on the best terms. They're
right,
in
they
there.
Have there's very factual, they started from this date to this date, some of their big achievements are XYZ, done.
But, to me, that feels appropriate for an encyclopedia. If you want the nitty-gritty tell-all, I've heard we're supposed to read Disney War and take it with a grain of salt. But that makes sense. But I agree. It does its job. I was flipping through, and a dictionary in the upper left and right hand corner, it'll tell you the first and last entry on that page, so it's easier to find things. And as I was looking for something someone requested, it was Song of the South, and I was like, ooh, gonna read that one. But like you said, just very factual. It listed when it was released in theaters, issued, reissued, just kind of some facts about filming, and nothing more on that.
It was very satisfactual.
Indeed, everything is satisfactual. But yeah.
And it stopped there.
And it stops there. I think it does its job as an encyclopedia. So I would say, if you're looking for, all the sides of a story, maybe seek out some other references. But if you're just looking to confirm facts or, looking for basic information on some things that you're interested in, this is a really great resource to have on hand. I have a story about using it. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
I feel like, I like research. I value trivia. So there's lots of facts stored in my noggin. But one time I used it at work because I was actually surprised about a fact. I was on a walk with my friend, just like, getting away from our desks. And we were talking about the treehouse villas, which are part of the Saratoga Springs property now. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to stay in one of those one day. They look really cool. And she goes, yeah, I think the international college program kids lived in there. And I was like, no, they live over in the Commons, which for anyone who hasn't done Disney college program, now everybody lives together, but there's 4 apartment complexes. And that's where a lot of the international students who come over to work in Epcot live. I was like, they wouldn't just put them there. Like, I did not believe her. She's like, no, like, I think I heard that once, but I could be wrong. I don't know. People tell you facts that are wrong all the time. Aren't always exactly the right facts. So I was like, you know what? We're going to go back to my desk and we are going to go to my Disney A to Z and find out if this is true. So I looked up the Treehouse Villas, and it says here, accommodations at Lake Buena Vista, built on pedestals in forested glens, opened in 1975 and closed in 2002, became part of the Disney Institute in February 1996. They were used for housing international college program students November 2005 to January 2008. On June 1st, 2009, after a major remodeling, they reopened as Treehouse Villas at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa. And I was like, well, I'll be fluff and stuffed. She was right.
Thank you, Dave Smith, for finishing that argument.
Yeah, well, and I thought, that's something that it was unexpected to even be in the entry. I was like, well, she could be right, but is Dave Smith even gonna mention it in there? So I just thought, what a great resource. I certainly used it to verify things for different projects I was working on, but that was just a more personal experience of something new that I learned from it. I am also jealous that I didn't get to live in a treehouse villa on my college program.
Right? Where were you in your college program?
I was in Patterson Court.
Vista Way.
No. It's Vista Way.
Yeah, I don't think I lived up to the Vista Way potential that the reputation has.
Infamous. Yeah, they closed the hot tubs a month before I got there. For Disney A to Z, you had something that you looked up before we get to entries that our listeners and friends submitted. What did you want to look at?
Yeah, so one of my favorite nighttime parade, was Spectro Magic. And what kind of prompted me for this was during my college program, I remember it was Electrical Parade, Disney's Main Street Electrical Parade, but I was like, this is not the one I remember. When did Spectro Magic go away? Because the title or the promotions with Electrical Parade was, it's making its grand return, but I don't really remember Electrical Parade that much from my childhood. The floats looked familiar, but I didn't have a lot of memories. But Spectro Magic is the ones that I think that's when I was a little older that I could remember going to the parks more clearly. That I was like, well, when did that go away? So I looked this up and learned some new things along the way. So Spectro Magic's entry says, Parade in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World beginning on October 1st, 1991. The new parade was designed so the old Main Street Electrical Parade could be sent to Disneyland Paris. Spectro Magic differs from the Electrical Parade in that there is increased use of fiber optics and there are a number of newly created characters. The floats were themed after Disney animated classics including Sleeping Beauty, The Little Mermaid, Fantasia, and the Silly Symphony cartoons. The parade ended its run May 22nd, 1999 for the Main Street Electrical Parade and returned March 26, 2001, and was retired June 5th, 2010. So it was still kind of a recent that a lot of people today remember Spectrum Magic very vividly.
Oh, absolutely.
It had a long run.
That is my childhood. I remember the creepy clowns that were on top of the spinning balls with the glowing faces at the beginning. The Fantasia floats for sure. The Chernobog one that was like a mountain, and then it's Chernobog, and like the Bacchus scene, and I think the hippos were in it, and the ostriches from Fantasia, and the music was so good. Then,
it's
but it's also like
and it's gorgeous.
Very 90s, as we referenced in our last one. Roger Rabbit's presence was in there.
Yes.
And then I just remember Jiminy Cricket was the narrator, which tied really well to Wishes. And I remember his intro was like, "Da Magic Kingdom proudly presents Spectro Magic." And you're like, oh, the lights are dimming. Here we go. We're in for a good time.
And Mickey in that giant cape when he came out with this.
So
it was like
fabulous.
That. Oh, it was wonderful.
I don't even know what it was. It was just one of those electric balls that they would sell at like Spencer's, or if you touch it, lightning comes out. But it was fine. Nobody really knew like what the connection was. But I don't care. It was great. Rest in peace.
Yeah. So, and I always hear every time I watch it that, you know, other families are not as privileged as we are, that we've visited the park so many times, that I always hear someone in the crowd go, "Wait, where's this float?" when they see Electrical Parade, although I know there's no parade right now.
No parade. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You have people who show up who want a parade, and they're like, wait, what? But
yeah.
Hopefully one day we get one back.
Yeah, and I thought Spectrum Magic had better floats than Main Street Electrical Parade. The more use of fiber optics, I think, could really show. I know that Electrical Parade has big nostalgia, but I think it's time to make Spectrum Magic come back.
Well, that's not happening because they're selling pieces of it in pins. There was own a piece of the magic, but it lives on YouTube for sure.
I wanted to be a butterfly girl with all the lights on my back.
You should do that for Halloween. Come for a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. People
I'll buy
will get
lots of Christmas rope.
We'll just throw them out there. It's fine. But speaking of throwing things out there, our listeners, these are my segues, that's as good as it gets. Our listeners threw some things out to us to look up. So let us know if you enjoy this. This is just kind of going to be us, as we were doing with our own entries, looking things up, kind of reminiscing about them. This is just a good use for us to have the time to catch up on longer books that we want to read. So if you do have fun with us like we are, let us know and we'll do it again next time we have a really long book that we have to get through. So let's kick it off with our first one.
Okay, so this came from Zoe. She requested Rapunzel, and this is one of those where you would hope she had longer entry, but all it says next to Rapunzel is princess with long hair, locked in a tower, entangled, voiced by Mandy Moore. That's all she gets. Something that a lot of people, one request I think we had that we were not able to find an answer to was who's the first princess to appear in a park, which my assumption would be Snow White, but there were quite a, but Cinderella might have been in Disneyland as well because she was 1950, but yeah, there's nothing in here like Rapunzel then debuted in the park at this time. Very character animation. This is where you find her. This is who voiced her. Done.
And I'd say this is a good reference if you have a specific thing in mind. Like, it's going to be harder to track things down when you have like a broad question like that. That's probably where Google becomes your friend because, it's attuned to that language. But you'd probably have to look up a lot of different stuff to even possibly find that answer. However,
I did find that if you were thinking more broad, like, oh, you want to know about Rapunzel, but you wanted to know more about her movie, Tangled has a much longer entry. So keep that in mind, too, when you are looking for information. Don't necessarily look for the character, look for the movie title or vice versa. Sometimes information gets put under another place that you think would be somewhere else.
Yeah. So next up, we had D Street, and this came from Mara, who said that she worked there on her Disney College program. And I believe she was referring to the one at Walt Disney World, because as we're about to share, there's two. It says, pop culture shop offering unique apparel, novelties, and vinylmation. First opened at Downtown Disney District at Disneyland December 15th, 2009. Also opened at Downtown Disney West Side, now the West Side at Disney Springs at Walt Disney World, April 16th, 2010. And this is another interesting example of how, even just a few years later, things need to be updated. D Street is no longer there. So it was current enough in this 2016 edition to note that Disney Springs, had changed. Well, Downtown Disney had changed to Disney Springs, but D Street is now closed. It is a Star Wars themed shop. So I'd be interested to see if in the next edition if it's still in there, because I think both locations, Disneyland and Disney Springs, have since closed. But I did really like that shop. I'm a big Vinylmation fan, so that was like your place for Vinylmations. But they have slowly slowed production of those.
Yeah, that's an example of other questions I would love to ask Dave Smith. Like, is this something that maybe down the road they would just take out of the encyclopedia because it doesn't exist anymore? And it's not something maybe as nostalgic as Spectromagic that doesn't exist anymore? Or do you go through, or what's that process of going through and like reading every entry and being like, this needs to be updated, but this one does not? Like, that's a cool process. That's an interesting process to me.
Absolutely.
All right, so next we had the Wilderness Lodge. This was another Disney College Program location from Lee Ann, who requested us to read what was in here. So Wilderness Lodge Resort Hotel at Walt Disney World opened May 1994, fashioned after the fine rustic national park hotels in the West, such as the Old Faithful Inn in Yellowstone. There are 2 restaurants, a snack bar, plus another at the swimming pool, and outside the Fire Rock Geyser, which erupts high in the air on a regular hourly schedule. The majestic timbered lobby rivals that of the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa for its grandeur.
Ooh, I like that. Was an interesting comparison, because actually our next 2 came from Heather, who was looking to know about any connection between Animal Kingdom Lodge, Grand Californian, and Wilderness Lodge. So it's interesting to me that the specific one mentioned there was actually Grand Floridian, because, you know, they both have huge lobbies, but I feel like Grand Californian, Wilderness Lodge, and Animal Kingdom Lodge all have very similar vibes. And
yeah, and I like that it gave the reference point of where they got their design influence, because now I'm like, oh, if I go to Yellowstone, I kind of now want to check out Old Faithful Inn and see what things look familiar or what they pulled from.
Yeah, I'm totally the person who goes on vacations not to Disney and then finds a Disney connection.
Disney is everywhere.
It is. So I'll go into those other 2 combined just to see if we get an answer. This is one of those examples of, you know, like, all right, we're kind of picking through to find an answer to that question if there is one within the references. So Animal Kingdom Lodge is an elegant 1,307 room resort operated next to Disney's Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World, and it was opened on April 16th, 2001. The hotel features 3 savannas where guests can observe animals from their room balconies, and 3 restaurants, Jiko, Boma, and Mara. Disney Vacation Club accommodations, called Disney's Animal Kingdom Villa's Jambo House, opened on the 5th and 6th floor of Jambo House, July 2nd, 2007. Disney's Animal Kingdom Villa's Kidani Village opened May 1st, 2009. So that one, interestingly, doesn't really talk about, you know, its inspiration, which is interesting because I've actually stayed there and they offer like a free tour led by some of the guides that work there that really talk about like the African-inspired art. So it's interesting that this was more straightforward. It's like, this is how many rooms there are, and this is the DVC versus the other side. But let's go to Grand Californian, which is very similar to Wilderness Lodge interior side. So this says, the first Disney resort to be located inside a theme park, Disney California Adventure, the Grand Californian celebrates the turn-of-the-century romantic craftsman movement of California. The design captures the artistic exploration of California's coastline with its Monterey pines and redwood forests, layered with the memories of the Arroyo craftsmen, the Mission pioneers, the Plein Air School of painters, and daring architecture. There are 712 standard rooms, 34 artisan suites, 2 presidential suites, and 2 vice presidential suites, along with a convention center featuring a large ballroom. Restaurants are the Napa Rose Storytellers Cafe and Whitewater Snacks. The hotel welcomed its first paying guests January 2nd, 2001, with the first event held in the hotel's ballroom earlier on December 1st, 2000. Grand opening was February 8th, 2000. On September 23rd, 2009, a Vacation Club edition, The Villas at Disney's Grand Californian Hotel and Spa, opened with 50 two-bedroom villas and 203 traditional hotel rooms, plus a new swimming pool and additional valet parking spaces. That was interesting. Like, we got a full breakdown of what the rooms were. So an interesting inconsistency between those entries.
Although now I'm curious, who writes the entries? Like, did Dave Smith write all of them?
Or
is he kind of more of an overseer? Right. Because I can't imagine he wrote 8,000 entries.
No, he has to have people helping. I hope.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Busy man.
Yeah, for being retired.
So yeah, I don't think we really maybe a little bit of a connection between Grand Californian and Wilderness Lodge, just in terms of like similar rustic inspired architecture, but not quite a direct answer, because it doesn't really say if there was like an architect who, like a specific architect who
true, like neither of these said designed by so and so.
Yeah,
it would be interesting to have that information of who created these. So good jumping off point, very factual. Moving forward, Trisha asked us to look up The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, was this considered a package film?
This was a package film.
I believe it
is the last package film.
One of my favorites. I usually rewatch it every Halloween-ish time, mostly for Ichabod, but Mr. Toad, some of that lore kind of fits in the fall a little bit. But this one is a long entry, so stick with me here. Okay. All right, so Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the film. The film begins in a library with actor Basil Rathbone telling the tale of The Wind in the Willows from the book by Kenneth Grahame about Mr. Toad, squire of Toad Hall, whose love for transportation vehicles was insatiable. His friends Rat Mole and MacBadger try to help him when his mania leads to loss of the deed to Toad Hall and a charge of car theft. Toad is thrown in jail, but on escaping he learns Winky, the tavern keeper, and the Weasels have taken over Toad Hall. But with his friends, Toad redeems his good name by recovering the deed to the estate, promises to reform until he eyes a 1908 biplane. Back in the library, singer Bing Crosby picks up with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, in which Ichabod Crane, a new school teacher, arrives in Sleepy Hollow and captures every lady's heart except for Katrina Von Tussle, daughter of a wealthy farmer. Ichabod has his eye on the Von Tussle wealth, but his attempts to woo Katrina disturb her bold suitor, Brom Bones, who tries to scare Ichabod away with the tale of the Headless Horseman. As Ichabod rides home that Halloween evening, he encounters the terrifying phantom and is mysteriously missing the next morning. While the townspeople spread rumor of Ichabod's whereabouts, Katrina weds Brom. Released on October 5th, 1949, directed by Jack Kinney, Clyde Geronimi, and James Agler. 68 minutes. Voices in the Mr. Toad segment include Eric Blore as Toad, J. Pat O'Malley as Cyril, his horse, and Claude Allister and Colin Campbell as his friends Rat and Mole. Songs include Ichabod, Katrina, the Headless Horseman, and the Merrily Song. This was the last of several packaged features in the 1940s during which the Walt Disney Studio had deep economic problems. Expenses were lowered by reusing animation cycles from The Old Mill, 1937, and by patterning Katrina closely on Grace Martin from The Martins and the Coys. Henceforth, Walt Disney would be able to finance the production of regular one-story animated features beginning the next year with Cinderella. Its success ensured the continuation of the animation at the studio. The entire film of The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad was not initially released on video cassette, but the two parts were released separately. The complete feature was first released on Laserdisc in 1992 and on video in 1999.
Laser discs. I always think of the Grandpa and Carousel of Progress, but that was a really in-depth one. You have Rapunzel, who's like a princess with long hair, and then a lot of context surrounding the release of that film. I thought it interesting that it did say deep economic trouble, so not fully rose-colored there.
But I also like that they told you where they modeled some of the animation from, so that was interesting.
That was something I was not aware of. I know the film from one of the other package films that they're referencing, the Hatfields and the McCoys, so I'll have to go back and see how similar they are. But as I mentioned, I am in the M section because Derek requested the Mickey Mouse review. And the Mickey Mouse review says, audio animatronic musical attraction in Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World opened October 1st, 1971 until September 14th, 1980, when it was removed and the theater was used seasonally as the Fantasyland Theater. The review featured a large cast of audio animatronic Disney characters performing sections of the most memorable of the Disney songs, with the orchestra led by Maestro Mickey Mouse himself. Magic Journeys was shown for a time in 3D, and in 1994, The Legend of the Lion King opened in the theater. It is current home of It is the current home of Mickey's PhilharMagic. The Mickey Mouse Revue was moved to Tokyo Disneyland, where it opened April 15th, 1983, and closed May 25th, 2009, also replaced by Mickey's PhilharMagic. I love that this was Maestro Mickey Mouse, and that's who leads PhilharMagic. So it's like
that's a great
nod.
Great connection. It's just a new concert. Same hall, same maestro, just
time.
a new concert.
But they literally, it does say that the Mickey Mouse Revue was moved to Tokyo Disneyland. They literally moved it. Like those animatronics, they took them all over because, fun fact, if you ride the Grand Fiesta Tour featuring the Three Caballeros at the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot, as of, I believe it was 2015, they had added 3 audio animatronics of the Three Caballeros. Those came from the Mickey Mouse Revue. So after it closed in Japan, they were probably in the archives or somewhere else safe, and they moved those animatronics there. So I like that they were repurposing them. That wasn't in this entry, but it reminded me of that fun fact. So I never got to see this because it closed before I was born, but I did find a video of it on YouTube once. And it's actually really cute.
I don't think I've ever watched it. I've heard a lot about it, but I've seen poster and artwork for it, but not actually watched it.
There's a decent copy out there on YouTube, so thank you whoever took that home video in the 80s.
So moving forward, thank you, Derek, for that request. And now we have one from Kathleen, who asked for the Disney Institute. And I read this one earlier, and I have some ideas about this. This is so cool to me. So the Disney Institute was a participatory vacation experience opened at Walt Disney World February 9th, 1996. Guests chose from a wide selection of interactive programs, more than 60, in the areas of entertainment, arts, performing arts, story arts, design arts, culinary arts, lifestyles, gardening, and the great outdoors, and sports and fitness. The facilities were located at the Disney Village and included Seasons Dining Room, a store called Dabblers, studios for animation, design arts, culinary arts, radio, and TV, a 400-seat cinema, a 225-seat amphitheater, and a large 38,000-square-foot sports and fitness center and spa. The former village resort accommodations became part of the Disney Institute, which featured bungalows, formerly club suites, townhouses, formerly vacation villas, treehouse villas, fairway villas, and grand vista homes. In summer 2000, the Institute no longer offered programs to individual tourists, but rather focused on programs that catered to groups and corporate retreats. The shift had begun in late 1996. The last guest stayed at the Disney Institute February 11th, 2002. In 2004, the Institute was replaced by Disney Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa, part of the Disney Vacation Club. Even though it lost its home, the Disney Institute has continued to teach professional development, reaching business audiences around the world to share strategies perfected through Disney's years of exceptional service and business excellence. If you and I were old enough to have stayed at this resort to take fun Disney classes, we would have been in our happy place.
Right. We were born too late. Because I like
we
that.
Were 4.
What year was it?
1996. We were 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been so much fun. But I think I've heard about that aspect on like some different podcasts, and people were staying there, but then just wanted to go on their vacation to Disney and weren't really taking the classes. So it's a shame that that didn't take off. But I like that they were able to kind of transition that philosophy into what's now more of like a business consulting thing, where Disney's able to teach their values and their corporate culture to others through the Disney Institute.
Yeah, because that's my current understanding of it. So I had never known that it was actually a place that tourists could go and be like, oh, I want to take a drawing class.
It was
I want to
literally an
do
institute.
Culinary school. Like, that's awesome. But yeah, it's a shame that we can't find another way maybe to repurpose, because so many people want like the animation, the art of animation back, or not the resort, the classes where you learn how to draw.
Disney animation.
That was it. Like, there's an audience out there, so if they could find a way
they still do
to bring some of those out
from time to time, at literally what you just mentioned, at Art of Animation, at certain times of the day they do it. And my favorite festival at Epcot is the Epcot International Festival of the Arts, and every day they were doing the drawing classes over in the
That's
Odyssey
awesome.
Festival show place. So I like that did continue. So there are still some of those educational aspects. But speaking of animation, I'm just going to keep doing really weird transitions.
We're on the ball with transitions today, listeners.
This came from Katie, and she was asking for more information about the spaghetti kiss in Lady and the Tramp. So another example, we're like, all right, spaghetti kiss isn't going to be an entry, but I went to Lady and the Tramp. So we've got another bit of a long film one here. And they say, Lady, a young Cocker Spaniel from a respectable home, falls in love with Tramp, a mutt who lives in the railroad yards. They enjoy several outings together, including a memorable spaghetti dinner by moonlight at Tony's, but their relationship is strained not only by Lady's loyalty to her human family and their newborn baby, but also by Tramp's devil-may-care attitude that at one point gets Lady thrown in the dog pound. Tramp redeems himself by saving the baby from a rat and thereby wins Lady's love and the affection of her human family. The first Disney animated feature filmed in CinemaScope, which necessitated extra work in planning scenes and action to fill the entire screen. World premiere in Chicago on June 16, 1955. General release on June 22, 1955. Directed by Hamilton Luss, Clyde Geromini, Wilfred Jackson. If you listen to Disorder, that's a reference there for Wilfred Jackson. 76 minutes. The idea for the film came from a short story by Ward Green entitled Happy Dan, the Whistling Dog. The film enlivened by such songs as He's a Tramp and the Siamese Cat Song by Sonny Burke and Peggy Lee. In early script versions, Tramp was first called Homer, then Rags, then Bozo. A 1940 script introduced the twin Siamese cats, eventually known as Si and Am. They were then named Nip and Tuck. The film stars such voice talents as Barbara Luddy as Lady, Larry Roberts as Tramp, and Peggy Lee as Darling, the Siamese cats, and Peg, the show dog. Peggy Lee helped promote the film on the Disney TV series, explaining her work with the score and singing a few numbers. Lady and the Tramp was re-released in theaters in 1962, 1971, 1980, and 1986, first released on video in 1987. Feels like the IMDb trivia page of a movie.
But I trust it because it came from Dave Smith.
Yes. I feel like that's where some people get it from. I like that it shared like when things were re-released. That's not something we do very often, but we talked about it on our little Golden Books episode, how people had to wait about 7 years for these films to come back around so they could see them before home video. And then it's been released and available since then. So it did have the spaghetti kiss. I'm glad that we were able to find out a little more on that, because that is the iconic moment in the film.
Yeah, it's very... I don't think now anyone can like go out on a date and two people order spaghetti and like not think about that. Even if you haven't seen the movie, everyone knows what that is.
It's within popular culture for sure.
And it seems like that's the standard, because now we've read 2 entries that are about movies, about films, so that seems pretty standard that they give a brief synopsis, who were the voice actors, when it was released, how long it is, things like that.
Yeah.
So it seems like the films will have a little bit of a longer thing. So moving along, we have a mystery entry for the letter P.
Mystery entry. Sorry, I just wanted to do that.
2 listeners, Jason and Mikey. They are from a candle company, the Apothecary. They design candles.
Or Apothecary 55.
My apologies. They create candle scents based off of the Disney parks, which is awesome.
I really want to smell the Burning Rome one.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
That's a thing. But they also have just
so
like fun names for the candles. So yes, they are listeners, and they asked for a mystery entry based on their name there, Apothecary 55. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you located that?
All right, so they asked for the P out of Apothecary, and for entry 55 based off of their name. So the 55th entry in the section of P section in the encyclopedia is Party Gras Parade. I've never heard of this, so thank you for this mystery entry.
Mystery entry.
You do it so much better. Okay, so this was a parade at Disneyland from January 11th to November 18th in 1990. Disney's version of Mardi Gras in New Orleans, this parade featured large floats, stilt walkers, dancers, and performers who would toss special Mardi Gras coins and strings of beads out to guests. The parade would stop at intervals and a special performance would be given. It was also in Tokyo Disneyland April 1991 through April 1993.
Okay, I had never heard of this when we looked it up, but what you're describing, I'm pretty sure is what's in that Disneyland Fun sing-along video. You know, where the one where they literally, it's children and they go to Disneyland, they do like following the leader,
Yeah.
like they're going through the park. Like one of the last songs before like the grand finale is that line up for the parade one. And there's big balloon floats and it has like a Mardi Gras feel. And I feel like
Oh my gosh.
you said it was the
I have to watch that
early
now.
90s was the date
Yeah,
range?
it was only from 1990, from January through November.
I feel like that would be the right time for that sing-along.
Ooh, that's
Because I
very
feel like
interesting.
Mickey's like a giant balloon in like a jester outfit or something.
I'm going to have that song stuck in my head now. I'm thinking about it as we're... Line up at the curb, come on everyone. Hear the excitement, the party's just begun. Dun, 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 dun. Something. The wonderful Disneyland parade.
Yes, there you go.
Excuse my terrible singing.
It's fine.
I was a dancer, not a singer.
So thanks
That's
for the
cool that
mystery
New
one.
Orleans Square had its own parade. Like just New Orleans Square. Here's
Yeah.
a Mardi Gras. That's crazy. That's awesome.
I don't have a fun segue. It's getting harder. So the next one is Orange Bird. Now this is one. I love Orange Bird. I'll be the first one to say this. This came from Heather. He was in one of our posts recently. I have a little statue of him. I did not think Orange Bird was going to be in here. I was like, oh, Heather, I'll see. I'll check. But Orange Bird is in here. Now, given the history of Orange Bird, I'd be curious to go back. I don't have my 1998 edition handy, but I do not think Orange Bird is in that one because I feel like Orange Bird has kind of like regained a cult following. But the story here is Orange Bird. Character with the head of an orange created for the Florida citrus growers when they signed on to sponsor the Sunshine Pavilion featuring Tropical Serenade in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. He appeared in the educational film Foods and Fun, A Nutrition Adventure. The character was designed by Bob Moore. See Sunshine Tree Terrace. So I'm going to go to Sunshine Tree Terrace because it told me to do that. And it says Sunshine Tree Terrace, quick service food location in Adventureland in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. Opened October 1st, 1971, featuring soft serve ice cream and beverages. A guest favorite is the Citrus Swirl. A figure of the Orange Bird, which had been removed in the 1980s, was brought back as of April 17th, 2012. The location switched places with Aloha Isle Refreshments on March 12th, 2015. So I thought it was interesting. There was like a little blurb on Orange Bird, but then there was a fact about Orange Bird in the Sunshine Tree Terrace about him coming back that wasn't in that other entry. But yes, he came back, like partially through the Disney Parks blog. They kind of like used him in promotional material, and we have loved and adored him ever since.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they have the See Sunshine Tree Terrace. They wanted you to read both to get the full picture of Orange Bird.
Because I think that's the first one we've read here that specifically pointed to another entry. Like certainly like if you're in the Rapunzel one, like yeah, you can go look up Tangled, but this was literally go see that other entry. So yeah, Orange Bird made it in. You're welcome, Heather.
So moving forward from our friend Betsy, Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights. So another light up attraction. I like all the nighttime stuff. All right, so under that entry, Jennings Osborne, an Arkansas businessman, designed a major holiday light show at his home. In 1995, his show with millions of bulbs was moved to Disney MGM Studios, where they continue to amaze guests each holiday season, except for 2003 when construction prevented their installation. In 2006, it became the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights. Back in 1995, while unloading the trucks of lights from Arkansas, the staff found that they had accidentally transported a purple cat rope light that the Osborne family used for their Halloween display. Since then, the cat has been placed in a different location in the display, and finding the cat is a fun annual activity for insiders. The spectacle ended with a 2015 showing. I had no idea about the cat. I wish I knew that.
The cat? No, we went. I feel bad I didn't show you the cat.
I wonder if in all of my pictures. So I was really lucky that 2015 was my Disney College program, and it was the first and last time I got to experience the Osborne Lights. I literally went, knowing it was the last season for it, went as many times as possible and would just sit on streets of America.
Yeah, we went together.
Yeah, we did. It was fun. I didn't know about the cat.
Yeah, I like that they put that detail in there, because that was a small
I need to look through my pictures and see if I accidentally got a picture of him somewhere.
I recommend to our listeners looking up the last moments of the I Have chills thinking about it, because
I remember watching it.
I was there that final night, but it was a weeknight, so I did not stay till park closed, but I got my last fill in that evening, but watched the final moments I think on Facebook or YouTube the next morning, and they played the end of the Mickey Mouse Club March, the "Now it's time to say goodbye." Yeah, I can't sing, but you should watch it because they sing it better, and the lights all fade, and the only things left illuminated are those original ones that they express in that entry that were from the Osborne families. They kept those lit up, and then they slowly faded out, and all that was left lit up was the sign that said "Peace on Earth." And it was just a beautiful,
so touching,
beautiful,
so touching
end to it.
I remember watching that.
I miss them. They were just a holiday staple and a really fun experience.
A lot of listeners, Osborne, not the Osborne family that you probably normally think of. I know that was the first time I heard about this. I was like, wait, those Osbornes? They're like, no, not those Osbornes.
Well, Osborne kind of sounds like Oswald. So let's talk about Ub Iwerks per Doug's
you fished for that one.
I did indeed. This is, I think, the longest one. It starts at the bottom of one page, takes a whole column, and then the back of another. This might be one of the longest entries in this thing, so I apologize. I did not pick it. But yes, I was going to say, if anyone is deserving of it, it is, in fact, Mr. Ub Iwerks, who lived from 1901 to 1971. Animator and special effects wizard, born in Kansas City, Missouri in 1901 of Dutch extraction, he had his first major job with the Pesman Rubin Commercial Art Studio, where he did lettering and airbrush work. It was there that Ub met Walt Disney, another aspiring artist. Both boys were 19, and when they were laid off, decided to set up their own company to do commercial artwork. The company, established in 1920, was called the Iwerks Disney Studio. Originally, they had thought to call it Disney Iwerks, but that sounded too much like a place that manufactured eyeglasses. The studio only lasted a month, but then both Ub and Walt were able to get more secure jobs with the Kansas City Slide Company, later known as the Kansas City Film Ad Company. When Walt set up Laugh-O-Gram Films in 1922, Ub joined him as chief animator. This company also lasted only a short time. Walt went to Hollywood to begin producing Alice comedies, and Ub joined him there in 1924. Ub's starting salary was $40 a week, higher even than Walt's, attesting to his importance. Several years later, when Walt lost the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, it was Ub who came to his salvation by helping him design a new character, Mickey Mouse. Ub animated the entire cartoon, plain crazy, all by himself. He worked at a tremendous speed. Ub was renowned for doing 700 drawings in a day. Today, a proficient animator turns out to 80 to 100 drawings in a week. The Galloping Gaucho followed, then Steamboat Willie, the first Mickey Mouse cartoon released. Ub continued animating on the Mickeys and also painted the backgrounds and drew the posters. When the Silly Symphony started, he took over direction of them. Because of the disagreements over production techniques and a desire to set up his own studio, Ub left Disney in 1930 for 10 years. By the time he returned in 1940, he decided to leave animation altogether and turn to his first love, cameras and special effects. One of his first inventions at Disney was the multi-head optical printer, used so successfully in the combination of live action and animation in Melody Time and Song of the South. Of tremendous importance to animation was Ubb's design of the modified Xerox process, whereby pencil animation drawings could be transferred directly to cells without the more expensive hand inking. Over the years, Ubb won 2 Academy Awards for designing an improved optical printer for special effects and for collaborating on the perfection of color traveling map photography. Ubb's inventions helped make the impossible possible, and Disney screenwriters and art directors kept that in mind. It was primarily due to Ubb that the Disney studio moved to the forefront in special photographic effects. Disneyland and Walt Disney Worlds occupied much of Ubb's technical attention in the 1960s, including such attractions as It's a Small World and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, as well as the Circle Vision 360 film process used in America the Beautiful. The design of the film process for the Hall of Presidents at Walt Disney World was Ubb's last project. He was honored posthumously with the Disney Legends Award in 1989. Ubb's son, Don and Dave, were longtime Disney employees. Ubb was a quiet, unassuming man who was devoted to his work, making his mark not only in animation, but also in the field of motion picture technology. He was an animation genius, perhaps the greatest of all time, whose contributions to the art in the 1920s and 30s helped make the animation much more appealing to a wider audience. A documentary on his life, The Hand Behind the Mouse, the Ubb Iwerks story, was produced by his granddaughter Leslie Iwerks in 1999. That is some high praise.
Are you sure we shouldn't call it Ubb Iwerks World?
Yeah. like that was...
Wow. I didn't know he also did the Xerox copying and stuff like that. I didn't know he went into special effects. I only knew him as an animator.
Yeah, he has a really... I've seen the documentary, The Hand Behind the Mouse. There's also a book that was written about it, too, with the same title or a similar one. So we should read that because I'm very inspired to based on this entry. Like you said, he had a monumental responsibility in creating Mickey Mouse. A lot of that is credited to him, and he was quite a workhorse churning out all of those. But yeah, just how long his career spanned. And it touched on him leaving and coming back.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know more about his time away as well. Like, what else was he out there doing that maybe we don't really know about? Well, that was quite a long entry. You should take a sip of water while I talk about... I tried with the segue. You're so much better at this. So from listener Ruben asked us to look at Sinbad's 7 Voyages. So, under Sinbad's 7 Voyages, an attraction in Arabian Coast in Tokyo Disney Sea, sponsored by Nippon Express, opened September 4th, 2001. Guests embark on an enchanting boat ride experiencing fantastic realms, unknown dangers, and unimaginable riches in the fabled lands of the Arabian Nights. After a story revision in 2007, the attraction was renamed Sinbad's Storybook Voyage. In the revised attraction, Sinbad appears younger and is joined by his loyal tiger cub, Chandu. A new song, Compass of Your Heart, was written by Alan Menken and Glenn Slater.
Everyone I know who's gone to Tokyo says that this is like the cutest ride ever. Like, it's kind of like It's a Small World, but with Sinbad. And I will say, Ruben was one of the ones who stumped us on an entry. In addition to suggesting Sinbad, he had asked for Ruben, aka Experiment 625, from the Lilo and Stitch, the series on Disney Channel. And I looked up Ruben, and there was no Ruben, so we're sorry, Ruben. So my Ubb Iwerks one, remember, was very long. That was probably like 4 minutes of me talking. Our next one comes from Angel, and that's Dopey, youngest of the 7 dwarfs who did not speak.
It's kind of appropriate, because since he doesn't speak, he's
a man of very few words, if any.
But you said there were other entries as well when we were looking at this, that there's one for Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. The 7 Dwarfs have their own entry. There's a lot in here that you can find other information if you wanted to.
But that brings us to our last one. What are we ending on?
So from Aaron, he asked us to look at River Country. Water Park opened at Walt Disney World on June 20th, 1976 and closed September 1st, 2001. The Disney designers longed for an old-fashioned swimming hole, so they created one next to Fort Wilderness Campground. It meant building miniature mountains for the water slide since Florida had no mountains to offer. Bay Cove, the swimming hole, was actually part of Bay Lake and held 330 1,000 gallons of water. The popularity of River Country convinced Disney executives to build Typhoon Lagoon, and some years later to be followed by Disney's Blizzard Beach. Interesting. It doesn't talk about when it closes.
Oh, no, it doesn't?
No.
That's surprising. Well, it closed in 2002. Fun fact.
Right, but it doesn't say when it closes. And
like, you'd think it might still be operational based on that. And this is the 2016 edition. But River Country has been closed for quite some.
Yeah, so one Disney fun story I have. So in my Disney College program days, I had worked Mickey's Backyard Barbecue a couple of times, which is on the grounds of Fort Wilderness. And in the employee area, there was a closed-off fence that looked very suspicious. And I was able to peer over or around a corner or something, and there was one of those iconic photos of River Country that like surfaces on the internet of like Disney's abandoned water park. And like you expect it to be this like ghost town or whatever. It's just one section. It's not very big actually of what's left. But I saw it in person. I was like, whoa.
That's cool.
Crazy.
Did you ever get to go when it was operational?
No, I don't remember going to River Country. It's possible I did, and I just don't remember like very vividly.
I went the summer before it closed. So I think it didn't reopen in 2002, and I feel like I went in either 2000 or 2001. I remember going with my mom because we liked to do like the pool, but it was like, oh, we'll go to River Country instead. But it was an interesting concept because, like you said, it was that bay water, and I was totally like that little elephant from Tarzan who's like, "Is this water sanitary?" It was. Disney had a special filter that filtered the bay water, but I was like, I'm not so sure about this. But alas, it is no longer there, which one might say it is defunct, and that brings me to our special announcement. So as we said, we're taking some time to read the Bob Thomas biography because it's on the longer side, and I know we have a few of you reading along as well. So we're probably going to record that episode. We're aiming for the first week of September to share that with you. But in the meantime, we have a special announcement, and that is that we have obtained an advanced copy of the Defunctland Guide to Magic Kingdom. And we'll be talking to the author of that, Kevin Perger, soon. So Kevin has a series on YouTube called Defunctland, as well as a podcast. And he focuses on theme park attractions that are no longer around. Certainly a lot of history with Disney, but also attractions from Universal like Jaws, and even regional theme parks like Six Flags. Really interesting documentaries, so it'll be fun to see where his book goes. As we said, this is an advanced copy, so it is not currently available. Initially, it was available through an Indiegogo, like a Kickstarter funding that people could pre-order. We will certainly ask him where it will be available in the future and when, but here is the description of the book from that Indiegogo page. It says, Defunctland has always been about sparking memories from the past, whether it be on YouTube or the podcast. This book continues that mission in a much more specific and intimate fashion. Kevin is able to discuss all of the attractions of the Magic Kingdom, providing a full overview of the most visited theme park in the world. Through art, humor, and adventure, Defunctland Guide to the Magic Kingdom pays tribute to the history of the park while still recognizing and celebrating the present. Defunctland Guide to the Magic Kingdom is not your typical Disney travel guide. Kevin is there with you each step of the way, giving you his personal opinions on the current attraction and detailing the history of the past attractions of the Magic Kingdom. The book is a colorful, fun, informative, exciting, and surprising adventure with plenty of humor and heart to make your next trip to the Magic Kingdom unforgettable. So that'll be fun. Being prepared to read something that's not out there, and excited to talk to him. So thank you, Kevin. We'll close out as we often do with our resources related to Disney A to Z. So as we mentioned, Dave Smith has some other works, and I definitely, when I think of Dave Smith, I think of his Ask Dave column, which was from Disney Magazine that ran through the late 90s to early 2000s. It was something my family subscribed to. It came on a quarterly basis, and I loved Dave's Ask Dave column. It was just people literally writing in letters about trivia questions they had about Disney, and he would answer them, just like 4 or 5 per issue. But I found out in our research for this that actually lives on. As we said, he's retired, but still somewhat active. If you go to d23.com/ask-dave-page, he still has a resource there where you can read through old questions, but also even submit some of your own for Dave to answer.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. I found that when a few years ago, and I love reading through them. They're really fun. And anything that maybe didn't make it into the encyclopedia, it's very possible that someone asked that. But he took some of those Ask Dave questions. See, I'm learning your segues here.
There you go.
He took some of those Ask Dave questions and he wrote a book about them. So if you don't want to be sitting on a computer or you don't want to look through those, Trivia from the Vault is his book that he put together of some of his favorite Ask Dave questions through the years. I'm hoping he'll do maybe a new edition of that, but that's a really good comprehensive, some big questions that a lot of fans tend to ask. I think he tried to take ones that were very frequent and put them on there. And like we also said in the podcast, please check out the Walt Disney Archives Twitter and Instagram at Walt Disney Archives. Their page is awesome. I love following them and seeing what new things they post every day.
And if you want to follow us on social media, we're just killing it at Book of the Mouse on Instagram and Twitter. You can email us. It's bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com. I am at Courtney_Guth on Twitter and at Great Guthsby on Instagram.
And you can find me on both Instagram and Twitter at Emily_McD. McD is spelled MICKDE.
Great. So why don't you take us out with our little quote today?
So I couldn't find any big quotes from Dave Smith. He really struck me as a historian where he was very factual on all the research that we did. But this is a quote from Walt that I think encompasses Dave and what he has done for the Walt Disney Company and taking on the task of creating the archive and this encyclopedia. So from Walt, he says, "Most of my life I have done what I wanted to do. I've had fun on the job."
Well, this is not a job to me, but I have certainly had a lot of fun with you today, Emily. I think this is
me too.
Longer than we probably anticipated it to be. I'm going to chalk it up to that iWorks entry. But listeners, let us know if you liked this, if you're like, girl, why are you just reading me the dictionary? Please give us feedback. We're welcome to it. We want to know what you're enjoying along the way. But until next time, we will see you real soon.
Bye now.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.